Now tell me a little bit about Senate Bill 164.
Well, Senate Bill 164 is a blueprint for a leaner government. It was killed last night in committee along a party line vote. The disappointing thing about that is the fact that here we are in a recession. We're in a major budget crunch. And anytime you have challenging times like the ones that we're in now, and every consumer, every taxpayer in the state understands that these are challenging times, you have an opportunity in those challenges. And the opportunity for us is to really re-envision the way we do government. Pare government services back to something that is much more reasonable. Instead, we have a bloated bureaucracy. Last year we grew the budget by about 4.5%. It was a budget I voted against, but the budget did grow by 4.5%. Since the hiring freeze of a couple years ago, the state has hired 2,300 new employees. We have a problem with spending in the state. And so what Senate Bill 164 would have done is it would have conducted a sweep through every bureaucracy, every program, every board and commission in the state government. And it would have done so with the purpose to finding and eliminating redundancies, finding and eliminating waste. There's certainly areas of fraud also that are taking place here in state government. The government provides a lot of benefits to citizens, safety net programs, different entitlement programs, and no doubt there are people that are accessing those entitlements under fraudulent circumstances. We should figure out who those are, who those people are, and where that has taken place so that we can save that money. We save that money for the taxpayer. It makes a big difference for families that are trying to make ends meet right now in these difficult times. So the first part of the bill would have done that sweep. It would have gone through every bit of the state government with an eye to reforming it. The second part of the bill is it would have gone through the entirety of our regulatory system. Business owners that I talk to in the state of Colorado, they know something very key that bureaucrats and politicians need to become aware of, and that is business succeeds in our state not because of government, but in spite of government. And anything that we can do to help them save money, to reduce their regulatory burden here in the state, whether it's through direct fees that they pay or just through the cost of having to comply with complicated or sometimes outdated rules, we should do that. We should do that in order to build a more prosperous and a more robust business community here in the state of Colorado. If we do those things, if we reduce the cost of doing government and we reduce the cost of doing business here in the state of Colorado, the revenue problems are going to begin to take care of themselves as the economy recovers. As I said, the bill was killed last night on a party line vote. It was inexplicable. Frankly, to me, it was inexcusable. They had an opportunity to work together in a very bipartisan fashion to put forward a very bipartisan bill, and they failed to do so.
Why exactly did you run the bill?
Colorado has not undertaken a reform effort like this since 1964. Back in the early 60s, they understood something that we would do well to remember, and that is government over time, it begins to develop lots of inefficiencies, overlaps in programming. Things become outmoded. They become more expensive just because you haven't been paying much attention to how you do them. So in the early 60s, as I said, the legislature undertook a 4-year study, and what they did is they went through and developed some very specific recommendations for the rest of the legislature to consider. We haven't done that for a long time now in the state, and here we are in the middle of a recession, and we're all looking for ways to make the government more efficient and more lean. That's what the other side says, but when they had an opportunity to join us in that effort, they refused to do it, and I think that they're lacking for a very good answer as to why they voted against it. It's high time we did it. Everybody knows in any organization, any budget, you're going to have fat. You're going to have things that become inefficient over time. And the only way to weed those things out is to deliberately search them out, to go after them, to systematically do it. And that's what the bill would have done. We haven't done it since the early 60s. Time to do it again.
What is the most essential component of the bill?
Well, it's the fact that you create a blueprint for governance as a result of the bill. And so, yeah, it's a sweep, it's a study, it's a systematic discovery of the things that we're not doing very well as a government, and we're not doing as well as we could as a government. But at the end of the line, you package those up into what amounts to a blueprint for governing for the next 20 or 30 years. I can't imagine the power that would give a legislature, the power that would give a governor, really, to be able to sit down and look at something that had been prepared, and you looked at everything from stem to stern in state government and said, these are the places where we could save money. These are the places where taxpayers are paying too much because there's redundancies, there's waste, there's fraud. We don't have a roadmap like that right now. We don't have a blueprint like that in the state, and we need one.
Now, what are your next steps going to be?
Well, I'm always going to continue to fight for reform of a regulatory system. Regulations cost businesses. Now, we all understand there are appropriate ways to regulate businesses, but there are also inappropriate ways to regulate them. There are ways that we treat businesses in the state that we shouldn't. We should not assume that government has a need to exist as an end in itself. We should actually assume that government has the need to exist to protect the rights of citizens and to protect the quality of life of our citizens. And part of that quality of life is just allowing people to own property like a business where they can make a living and they can enjoy life with their family and in their communities. And really anything that is getting in the way of that from a governmental standpoint, we need to go through and we need to slash those things out of there so that businesses can do well, so they can thrive, they can be prosperous here in the state of Colorado, they can create jobs, and that's what's going to help us recover in this economy. So I always have my eye on ways to reform the regulatory structures, and I'm kind of a watchdog in that regard, and I'll keep doing that. I'll probably run the bill again next year or something very similar to it, and also do the same thing with regard to finding waste. There's a lot of ways that we waste taxpayer money, and why that is so grievous to me is because when you take money from people, you're taking a little bit of their ability to make certain choices in life, and when you take choices away from them, you're actually taking a little bit of their freedom away. And so it's not just a matter of dollars and cents. It's also a matter of freedom, of liberty, of individual choice. And so we have an obligation to do that. It's not something that we should do or could do. I think we have a moral obligation to do that, to lean up the government as much as we can so that we can save taxpayers money and ultimately help them be more free, more prosperous.